take a step back. So before I became a financial planner with Equitable, I was actually a high school math teacher for 5 years. So I went through college. I grew up, always wanting to help people. And it's amazing to kind of see the similarities between the two careers. Sure. I mean, the first 6 months, there was a lot of those thoughts going through my mind. Like, how am I going to do this? What's going to happen? And I think it's important to be able to express that and to get that out. And one, quote that always stuck with me, with my mentor, was just failure was not an option. So, and it's not just the business, right? Because the business is important, but without family and friends and, all of that around you, you miss a lot of that. So I will purposely, block off time in the calendar. So as an example, look today and how did you get here? And from there, right, it's very easy for me as an advisor to come in and say, well, Pratik, if you're saving X amount per month, well, all of that should go towards investments or real estate. But we have to be realistic because unfortunately, and we've probably all seen this story of an individual that has saved their entire life to get that comes to mind, but investing in yourself, whether it's reading materials, podcasts, conversations, etc. There's always different ways to be able to invest in yourself. Focus on the journey, not the destination.
Welcome to Class Act Lifestyle, your go-to hub for mastering the art of living well. Here, we empower you with life-changing skills, practical wisdom, and inspiring ideas to lead a fulfilling lifestyle. Discover a treasure trove of teachings from personal development to health, relationships, finance, and more.
Hello everyone, this is Pratik Dowle coming at you from your own YouTube channel, Class Act Lifestyle. This week on the podcast, we have invited a very, very special guest for you to learn about the finance and the investing and the insurance part of it. This week, we have a very experienced, skillful, and a very knowledgeable person in financial professional who has made his mark big time in New York and in East Coast United States. He is going to share with us, some of his background, how he started, where he came from to lead to a very successful life in finance. He has his own company in finance and had made a very successful venture out of it. He's going to share lots of finance tidbits with us, which is going to be helping us in our own life. Without further ado, please help me welcome Christopher Grimes on YouTube channel Class Act Lifestyle Podcast Series. Thank you, and let's give it begin. Hello, Chris. Welcome to the YouTube channel Class Act Lifestyle. How are you doing?
Very good, Pratik. Thank you for having me. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for agreeing to do the interview. I really appreciate your time, and we don't take it lightly. And so, as you are already such a financial independent person, having a big firm, Equitable Advisors, why don't you share your journey with the audience here? Like, what was your background? What path did you take to reach to a level where you are, and what led to all the success which you are embarking?
Sure. So I think it's good to kind of take a step back. So before I became a financial planner with Equitable, I was actually a high school math teacher for 5 years. So I went through college. I grew up, always wanting to help people. And it's amazing to kind of see the similarities between the two careers. So I taught for 5 years. I coached high school baseball and cross country, and I absolutely loved it. I wouldn't take anything there back. And then eventually, about 5 years into that career, I decided to make a transition. And when I made that transition, I looked to both my mom and dad for advice. My dad was somewhat against it. Teaching is a very consistent, steady type of a role, not too much risk from his perspective. And my mom was the complete opposite. She said, "Hey, if you want to do this, take a chance, go and do it now. Otherwise, you're going to look back and wish you would have taken that chance." And I was lucky enough with my upbringing. I interviewed with a lot of different companies, and my now brother-in-law was part of Equitable, and it was, came into the city for the first time. So when I got out of Penn Station to see those tall skyscrapers, it was just a game changer for me. And now I've been with Equitable for about 5 years. Just recently, about 6 months ago, obtained my CFP, Certified Financial Planner. And my big passion behind that transition comes back to my mom. And we'll talk more about that as we go through, our conversation for today.
Wow, that's very good. You said that you also had a CPA. Now you're a certified financial planner. Along with that, what made you to think go that route? Like, because you said you are a school teacher with math as a background. What made you to shift that way?
So the big thing was I was looking for a career that allowed me to work with people, and I love connecting with people. So as I started to do my research, and this is about 4.5 years into teaching, I came across financial planning, and there's a lot of similarities. I know even from when I was interviewing there, where you're just helping, whether it's an individual, family, or a business owner, solve their biggest challenges. So just like with teaching, where you would help students get ready for college, that next big step. Here, it's helping clients prepare for planning for their children's education, retiring comfortably, buying real estate. So there's a lot of similarities there, and I just fell in love with it. And my wife and we talk about it all the time. I don't feel like I work a day in the world. It's just enjoyable to speak with individuals like yourself, to connect on a deeper level. Um, and then as I've gone through this career change, one of the reasons behind the CFP was just to be able to provide more holistic advice to clients. As you know, anything on today is very high level, but being able to advise and talk to clients about real estate, as an example, estate planning, those are areas that maybe early on we didn't spend a lot of time with. But if we're going to do this right for clients, I think that's very important. And that was, the big driver behind obtaining my certified financial planner, CFP designation, earlier this year.
Wow, that's great. Another question I had was with respect to, so you started your own business, and starting a business is not a joke, especially in New York. You need to go through lots of process and policy you have to update and all those things. So what made you think that way, and why you pursued that path, and how that led you to a financial success?
To be frank, when I first started as a financial planner, I didn't look at myself initially as a business owner, but it's amazing how over time that transitions. And now when I reflect and I look back, I think I always wanted to be my own boss and control that. So naturally, what ends up happening there as a business owner is it's not just the day to day of sitting down with clients, but you have to think about how can you grow your business, and really think about where you want to be spending your time. So that's allowed me to grow our team with different paraplanners and assistants. That's part of our group there, to allow me to spend the time where I want to, but also focusing on building the business. I found that's allowed us to really have more impact over time. But it just comes back to initially, I have to give thanks to my wife. Without a good support, and it's going to be different for everyone, but for me, my wife being there from day one when it's tough, as you're getting started, as any business owner knows, whether it's a friend, a spouse, family, to have somebody there by your side pushing you, really helped in that career change, which I don't think would have been possible if I tried to do it all on my own without a good support system for me.
So that's a good answer there. Now, Were there any moment that you felt like you have to give up now? Because when you go through that journey, you definitely want to give up based on what. And how did you stay motivated during those tough times? Because everyone goes through that situation. I just wanted to know your take on that.
Sure. I mean, the first 6 months, there was a lot of those thoughts going through my mind. Like, how am I going to do this? What's going to happen? And I think it's important to be able to express that and to get that out. And one, quote that always stuck with me, with my mentor, was just failure was not an option. So, we were just getting our family started there. We just bought a house, thinking about having kids. So for me, failure wasn't an option. So that, as you're going there, you're trying things out that aren't working. So you scratch those and you try other things. And eventually over time, things start to fall into place. And one of the things that I'll always do with newer advisors is to capture those feelings in a notebook or a journal so that you can always reflect when things are getting tough, to be able to reflect on that to see how far you've come. Because it's not always about the final destination. What I've learned is the journey along that, and I'm sure you would agree, Pratik, is that much more enjoyable than trying to get to some specific, finish line or end point. But there was quite a few times early on that I didn't know what this was going to look like. I just grinded and kept pushing through.
Very good. I like that answer again. With that saying, what it affects is like when you open a business, and especially in the finance industry, it also affects the work-life balance. So, how did you maintain that healthy work-life balance while maintaining the family? And I know you had recent kid, so you were definitely pretty busy with that. So, how did you make sure the wealth and the family and the whole all this business interest go hand in hand with you?
Great question. A lot of that comes back to your calendar and prioritizing what is important to you. Because I found that early on, you always are trying to complete every single task, and it is impossible. And my wife has said this to me hundreds of times, to have everything completed. So what I learned is that it's important to prioritize, and it's not just the business, right? Because the business is important, but without family and friends and all of that around you, you miss a lot of that. So I will purposely block off time in the calendar. So as an example, Mondays and Wednesdays, 7 to 8:30 a.m. and 5:30 to 7 at night are blocked off for me to pick up and take my daughter to daycare. Early on, I was working 15, 16 hours a day. And now I've just shifted that to blocking off time to spend with the girls. Gianna's a 2-year-old and Olivia is about 4 months now. And then I'll come back online maybe 8 to 9 o'clock at night to answer emails or go through things that are important. But I found that early on, my calendar and my goals were in line with everybody else's expectations. And then when I reflected on it, and this happened about 3 years into the business, I realized my business goals for the year weren't for me. They were for my managing partner, my other advisors, people around me. And when I made that shift to make those goals relative to me and how I wanted my business to look, it made it so much easier to block off the time. So every Friday now, and this comes from a book, Tranquility by Tuesday, every Friday I'll block off a half hour and I will plan out the next week, and I'll plan out that weekend so that now I'm intentional about where I want to spend my time. I do that for business, personal, and just as a way to make sure I'm spending time in the areas that are most important, family, business, etc. But that's been very helpful. Make your calendar reflect what you want your day-to-day to look like.
Brilliant suggestion. Oh, definitely, I'm gonna use that on my end because and also Tranquility by Tuesday. That's fantastic book. So thanks for the recommendation there. Because you mentioned that, another question that pops up in my mind is like, how do you handle the negativity around you, or criticism? Because when you are going through it, when you're opening a business, lots of hurdles, challenges which we get from the friends and families we are staying with also go through lots of different things about it. So how do you handle the criticism, the feedback which you are receiving, and how do you take that to improve yourself and the business both?
Great question. Early on, it was a different answer, right? When I had criticism or negative feedback, I think I took it too personal. Um, but what I learned is after every situation that you go through, whether positive or negative, you have the opportunity to learn and grow from it. So when there are situations that maybe I'm not as happy with the outcome, I allow myself about 5 minutes to be upset, angry, let any emotions kind of go through. And then at that point, that's my clock to say, hey, that's enough. And then from there, what I'll do is I'll spend some time, and I typically will do this at the end of the week or on a Saturday or Sunday morning before the family's up. And I'll reflect on that situation. What went wrong? What could we have done better so that I can grow from that? And if there's any mistakes that I have made, then the goal there is not to repeat those mistakes, moving forward. And the other thing when it comes to criticism or feedback, whether positive or negative, I think it's important to find people in your circle that you really trust that will challenge you. Because there's always going to be friends that if you said, hey, give me feedback, they're always going to tell you, hey, it sounds great, that looks good. But you want to find someone that you can, or a group of people that you can challenge and say, hey, Pratik, what did you think about this presentation or this idea? What could I have done better? Because that's how you're going to learn. So I purposely will try to surround myself with, whether it's podcasts that I'm listening to or individuals that are really successful in this business, and try to learn from it, because I know I don't know everything. And, one thing that stuck with me from a podcast that I've listened to recently is who, not how. So who is it that may be able to help you in a certain situation, instead of the how, which is spending hours upon hours trying to find a solution when, there's probably a way that's out there already, and not to recreate or reinvent the wheel.
Wow, thank you so much. Like, and being a financial advisor, I don't know if I'm asking too much by asking this question, but I just wanted to know, there are lots of listener on this podcast is like who are single income, are not married, and then there are other people who are husband wife both working, dual income household. Any tips for them on how should they go with their life?
Sure, sure. And keeping this high level and making sure that this is not any specific, investment advice. I think what's important to note is whether it's a single household, when you're looking at income or dual income, there is it's prioritizing what is most important to that family or to that individual, that business owner. So when you're going through it, the first thing is to always just capture where somebody is today, right? And it's always non-judgmental. Try to get an idea of, how does the picture look today and how did you get here? And from there, right, it's very easy for me as an advisor to come in and say, well, Pratik, if you're saving X amount per month, well, all of that should go towards investments or real estate. But we have to be realistic, because unfortunately, and we've probably all seen this story of an individual that has saved their entire life to get to retirement. And 2 weeks in, unfortunately, something has happened and they never had the opportunity to enjoy life along the way. So I'm very big, with helping clients to not only save for their future, but to also, do things along the way that are impactful, whether it's taking trips and creating memories, throughout the year, whether it's volunteering, charitable work, etc., to help clients that way. And then from there, you back into, where money should be going on a monthly or an annual basis to help not only accomplish those values that are most important today, but to also make sure that you have, different resources that are going to be available to you later on down the road to also help you have a comfortable and enjoyable retirement. but there's no harm in having those mini retirements along the way. That's what life is all about.
What an answer. This is definitely because everyone thinks about it, right? We have the money. Where do we invest? There are so many things. And that's where I think someone with a good financial background can help us take a decision. I think the advisor is someone who asks us a good question, let us answer those questions and help us get to that level where we want to and move to that level. And I think you have helped so many people. So thank you so much for getting into that zone and helping people out with your business, with your personal advice on professional. So let's make a quick move towards a fun round, which is our rapid fire questions, where I will be asking you some quick questions and try to learn from that as well. So, what's your favorite book that you would definitely recommend everyone reading?
So it's a book, and this is probably a little bit biased to me because I'm as a financial advisor. But it's this book from another CFP. It's called "Wish I Knew That Sooner" by Sten Morgan. And I don't know, Pratik, if maybe you've heard any podcasts or et cetera from him. But from experience, that is one of the biggest topics that comes up in client conversations. Is just, am I on the right track? Have I been doing the right things? And this book I've probably read now about 10 different times. I've listened to the podcast, etc. But it's all about helping, to your point before, when it comes to investing, understanding that there are other ways to invest outside of just the market. And it took me a little bit of time to realize that as a financial advisor, when you're first coming up, you're used to stocks and bonds. But the one quote from the book that really stuck with me as a business owner was that when you're first getting started, the idea of if you were to put money into a 401k versus like investing into yourself as a business owner, you'd be crazy not to invest in your business to help it grow, because you could drive that business 100 times where, sure, in the market, you may get 10%. Again, that's not a prediction on returns, but it's important that as you're getting started as a business owner to invest into yourself, whether it's into new technologies, it's going to conferences, connecting with other people. That's the best way to create a return, because now you have all that knowledge. And I wish I would have done something like that with the CFP 5 years ago to be able to compound that over time quicker. I know this is supposed to be the fast, rapid fire round, so I apologize. That was a much longer
No,
answer than expected.
no, this is fantastic answer because you covered multiple different things on that answer. So thank you so much. That was good. And I like the book which you said. Definitely I'm gonna read it. I never read that book, but I'm on to it now. And maybe we'll see that in our book review. Um,
Perfect.
um, Best financial advice you have ever received.
So this was from when I was studying in college there. Very simple saying: invest early, invest often, and invest freely.
Awesome.
And I'm happy to elaborate if you have any questions on that.
Yeah, why don't you elaborate that? Because a lot of people mistake that like invest early. I don't have money when I want to invest early because I'm still studying. I'm taking loan from my parents or banks to study. So how do we, a person like a youngster would go and invest?
So it's if you really want to, when you first get started, you can always find a way to invest, and it doesn't always have to be money. So to your point there, sure, that is one thing that is always going to be probably the first thought that comes to mind. But investing in yourself, whether it's reading materials, podcasts, conversations, etc. There's always different ways to be able to invest in yourself. One of the best ways, depending on the career that an individual may want to get into, is talk to people that are in that career. For me, that was so impactful because I could talk to somebody that was 60 days into the career. I could talk to somebody that was 30 years to see what that journey has been like. To me, that was such invaluable information. that you can't replace that experience. I could read in a book, but to see somebody, firsthand what that experience has been like. Um, and then the freely part is to make sure that when you're thinking about investments, just make sure that you have, your emergency taken care of just in case something were to happen. It allows you to invest without having to worry about if the roof blows off, how do I fix that the next week or next month? So, but that's something that I've always adopted from early on, and it doesn't have to just be money. It could be investing in yourself, tons of different ways.
Brilliant answer. Because emergency saving is definitely, and we covered a book review by Robert Kiyosaki. We talked about that in that book also. The same thing. Brilliant advice there. Another question is like, what was the best decision you made with respect to your business?
So for me, um, it was investing into the CFP. So again, that's Certified Financial Planner. That program took me about 2 years to finish. If I could go back, I would have done it sooner because my Saturday mornings, I had my daughter knocking on my door to come in to say, "Hey, Dad, let's play," and I was, studying. So if I could go back, there's never going to be the perfect time to do it. You can always say, "Hey, let me push this out to next week, and I'll have more time." It just doesn't happen. We all become busier and busier and successful. So, the CFP for me was a way to, stock my shelves in regards to information and advice that I could provide to clients and individuals. So to me, that was the best way to grow within this practice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What motivates you when the things get going? Because I know you answered that briefly earlier, like in a short, like what do you think keeps motivate you?
So one is going to be to not have failure be an option. So for me, it's always how do I grow the business so that I can continue building on, this foundation that we've started to have more and more impact with individuals. But for me, it's always going to come back to my wife and my two girls now, because there's nothing more enjoyable than seeing those two when you get up in the morning there. So anytime there's something that's going tough, I'll, turn to my side and I'll look at, different pictures of them and just, one of the things that I've always appreciated is like at the end of the day, my wife and I, we'll sing songs to the girls before bed, and just the smile on their face or the enjoyment that they have from just going through something as simple as that we take for granted all the time makes me realize that we stress out too much in life, and to just enjoy those little moments.
Wow. Last rapid fire question: the code that motivates or inspire you.
So for me, and I touched a little bit on this before, focus on the journey, not the destination. Um, because I've realized throughout, my career that a lot of times it's always the destination that I would focus on the first couple of years. And when you reflect back, you end up missing out on all these little moments, all these little wins and learning situations along the way that now it's important to embrace that as you move forward there, and take it, one step at a time.
Wow. Thank you so much, Chris. This is fantastic. I'm like the conversation we had, the topics we talked about. You shared so many financial tidbits, nuggets that we can take it on our life and make it to a next level. Thank you so much. And certainly the questions related to the financial topics, which is a big taboo. We never covered that. We never talk about it openly. You were able to give a lot of wisdom on that. So thank you so much. Do you have any final advice for us?
Well, first off, thank you for having me be a part of this conversation. I've appreciated the opportunity for you and I to connect the way we have so far, and just to see your positive outlook on life is just absolutely amazing. And for me, that's look to surround yourself with people that are going to challenge you to make you better. Um, and you and I have connected quite a bit. And I feel like there hasn't been a time where I don't walk away from that conversation with a smile, or, I'm learning from you along the way as well. So I appreciate, what you've done, and, this channel that you put together is amazing. And I'm excited to see where that continues to go.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your wisdom, the knowledge you shared, and for the community which we have. We'll be so much thankful to you. Appreciate everything which you are doing for us. Thank you so much, Christopher Gomez.
Thank you, Pratik. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.